We got to know Chris Karpman back when some of the thoughts, speculation, and even good reporting that Arizona State was going to end up in the Big 12 with the Pac-12 trying to figure what out they were going to do, and he's been great. And what a year for the Sun Devils and Kenny Dillingham and company. Chris, thanks for your time. Appreciate your patience and jumping on with us now. I saw your tweet about the players who are coming back. Yes, they're going to lose Scadaboo among others, but could they have had a better 6 to 10 days after their game with Texas with their roster and being fulfilled for next year, basically?
It went almost perfectly, really. They lost 0 starters, regular starters from last year's team to the transfer portal. And this is an ASU program that has been destroyed by transfer losses over the last several years. You look at it, Jaden Daniels, Johnny Wilson, Ricky Pearsall, Eric Gentry, and a host of others over the last few years. All conference players, NFL draft picks, first rounders, Heisman Trophy winner. And this year, very different. ASU kept every regular starter, almost all of their top backups. And that's especially important when you have Sam Leavitt returning as one of the top quarterbacks in the country, probably, certainly in the Big 12. Jordan Tyson, one of the top wide receivers in the country. ASU is going to be one of the favorites, if not the favorite, in the Big 12 next year.
I know that they can't just clone Cam Scadaboo, but they've got the guy coming in from Army. What do you think else they need to do? I mean, with the 50 guys that got coming back, is there anything else they need to do to make sure that they're in the best position to repeat?
Yeah, wide receiver. I think that's the most important position. They're going to be pretty thin there. Malik McClain's coming back. He made some plays at the last couple games of the year to support Jordan Tyson, and they have a freshman, Zechariah Sample from Texas, who's talented. But they added Jalen Moss from Fresno State in the portal. He's clearly like a good player that they're getting. He could be a starter caliber guy. And then they added Noble Johnson, transfer from Clemson, young and athletic. He hasn't really done that much, so you got to wait and see on him. I think they need 1 or 2 more starter level wide receivers. And then elsewhere, it's just fine tuning a little bit. They could use another pass rusher. They could use another corner to be one of their top 3 corners, if not probably not a starter, but at least a top backup. And then maybe an offensive tackle. Everybody could use an offensive tackle. But look, the truth is they're in very good shape. If they can get 1 or 2 more wide receivers, I don't see any reason why they can't be a team that is capable of 9 or more wins next season.
Chris, I'm sure you saw it a few times, and maybe you even tweeted out a few times, but as ASU went on their run, the preseason poll and their place as the 16th team in the preseason poll got brought up and talked about quite a bit. But as somebody who covers them as closely as anyone, was there any reason to believe they could go on the type of run that they went on? I mean, outside of Cam Scadaboo's superpowers or something along those lines, just from your perspective as somebody who is up close, how shocking was what they did this past season?
Well, it depends on when we're talking about. Before the camp even started, or maybe even at the beginning of the season, yeah, it was pretty shocking to see the amount of improvement over those few months. And nobody expected, certainly I didn't expect that ASU was going to be that good before the season started. But we pick all the games on a week-to-week basis against the spread, and I was 11-3 picking ASU games against the spread this season. So bottom line is, by the end of September, it was pretty clear to me that this was going to be a contender in the Big 12. And really, I only thought ASU would lose maybe 2 games from October on a week-to-week basis. When they beat Kansas State on the road, that cemented for me that they were absolutely the best team in the Big 12 and capable of even competing in the CFP.
What's been the feeling after such a great run, but yet such a kick in the nuts type loss, the way it went down with the lead and 4th and 13 in Tempe the last, let's say, 6 to 10 days?
Yeah, that was emotionally very devastating for ASU fans and even a lot of the people on the team, given what they had accomplished, for it to end so suddenly and in an overtime. That it's an immediate switch that's very difficult after winning 7 games in a row before that. And at the same time, they had the big plays happen for them in a lot of earlier games that enabled them to win those games. They won 6 one-score games. They wouldn't have even been in the situation if not for that happening. And so you kind of have to measure that against the emotional trauma of that loss happening the way that it did. And let's never forget the fact that this team achieved more relative to its potential than any ASU team that we've seen in decades. And nothing that happened against Texas can change that.
Chris, what do you feel like the vibe has been about the no call? Do you think fans are blaming that, or are they just blaming the blitz at the end?
Well, there were several no calls in that game that drew the ire of ASU fans. It wasn't just the targeting. And the thing about the targeting that was so frustrating, I think, for fans in ASU was that it was quite similar in terms of the location of the contact and the angle of the helmet against the helmet of the contact that Shamari Simmons had against Iowa State in the second half on the quarterback that then cost him the first half against Texas. And then his replacement, Montana Warren, who had never played nickel, gave up the slot wheel route on a rub concept that went for a touchdown on Texas's first score. So that set up the feeling that ASU fans had about the non-targeting or targeting that wasn't called, which could have given ASU a chance at a field goal in regulation. By the way, guys, I predicted that ASU was going to win that game 27-24, and had that targeting been called, and ASU kicked the field goal to win, that would have been the final score. Of course, it didn't happen, but the point was, I thought that ASU was going to be able to compete with Texas as it did. But then also there was I thought a pretty obvious blindside block on Texas's punt return for a touchdown, happened right in front of the ball. I thought that was an obvious foul that wasn't called. Certainly, you had a bunch of officials looking at that. And then on the 4th and 13 touchdown, if you look at replays closely and they're online, the ball makes contact with the ground, and then it becomes a question of whether or not he had control or not. And I think people that are not ASU fans even said that they thought that was very debatable. So you put it all together, and there's this natural sentiment out there of, was there a subconscious or conscious even bias that preferred that Texas advance? And I'm not saying that's the case. It's just a shame that that's something that ASU fans could take from the experience.
Chris, just how would you describe the experience overall? I mean, the ride that was this very fun season, but then the playoff experience, being able to be a part of that for the very first time, and how have you sort of felt the ASU fan base sort of rally around this success over the last few months compared to, when we were talking to you back in the summer and things, we didn't know which direction they were going to go really, and things had not been very good. Just what's this last few months stretch been like?
Unlike anything that I've experienced covering ASU over more than 20 years now. I was a student at ASU in '96. I was young, and I was there in the Rose Bowl when David Boston for Ohio State caught the touchdown at the end of the game to ruin ASU's perfect season and national championship bid. And there was spontaneous crying and heartache, and it was a very emotional scene. And never from then until now, 28 years, has there been anything, in my opinion, that was on par until that game against Texas and the way that it ended. And I know that there was a younger generation, or maybe two young generations below me, of fans who had never really felt that before. And the emotion that was experienced was difficult to process, but also a realization came over a lot of people that that's what they aspire to have. Only one team is going to win the national championship. You expand the playoff to 12 teams, 11 fans are going to be heartbroken. The fans of 11 teams, I should say, are going to be heartbroken. But the reality is you want to get there and you want to be able to feel those things and experience those moments. And I think that was really cool for ASU fans. And now they want more of that.
Yeah, just imagine, make a play on 4th and 13, no matter what, this or that, complaints, etc. Just make a play. You had it there. Last thing from me, what was the true expectation of what Sam Leavitt might be when he came in from Michigan State? Because I can't imagine it was the standard of which he played at most of this year and how great he became by the end of the year.
Well, Kenny Dillingham compared him favorably before the season even began to Bo Nix. And as you guys know, Bo Nix was one of the best quarterbacks in the country as a senior at Oregon, first-round draft pick, just led the Denver Broncos to the playoffs. Now, I don't think that was what he accomplished this year was the expectation for this year. But there's been a belief in and around ASU that Bo Nix was capable of being a Heisman Trophy conversation quarterback and a first or second round draft pick in the NFL. And I wrote a column even before the season started calling Bo Nix the most important player that Kenny Dillingham would ever coach. And I think that worked out pretty well for everybody involved.
Just curious on your thoughts on Jaden Rashada. I mean, he was there for a year, and I know there was probably a time that thought, okay, well, this is the future for Arizona State. Now he's on what will be his 4th school. What do you think the future holds for him?
Well, he's very talented, no doubt about that. The unfortunate reality is that we live in an era where a lot of guys move around rather than deal with the adversity that is upon them. And when you continue to avoid the challenges or the struggles, the adversity, you don't grow as much as I think you otherwise would. And advice that he's been given, I think, has been not good, and or the people that he's modeled himself after or taken the behavior after, because you can't just run around and expect to get the type of growth that you need to be able to get better in the window that you have as a college athlete. Now, he's a nice guy, and I hope things work out well for him. The best thing, in my opinion, would be for him to go to a lower level where he's going to be far and away the more talented quarterback than other options on the team, and then play, and then try to build himself up to where he has an opportunity to thrive at that school and even potentially move up and accomplish some of his professional aspirations.
Chris, thank you very much. Arizona State, what a year, what a great run. And also look forward to the offseason in the Big 12. You don't know from one year to the next, but I'm not going to say they're a lock because, my God, I picked them dead last like a lot of people did. Good luck. Love what Dillingham's done. We appreciate it. And tell our good friend CJ Fight we said hi. Young man from Tatum, Texas, who was such a great defensive lineman for them this year, too.
I will, and he played as big a role against Texas as anybody, limiting Texas to 53 rushing yards.
Yep, he was fantastic and active. Thanks for your time. That's Chris Karpman, covers Arizona State. Do you